On this episode of St. Louis People on the Move, I'm going to introduce you to Steve and Jean. Steve and Jean are past clients of ours. A few years ago, they decided to downsize. In our interview, you will hear them talk about how they interviewed agents, why they chose to work with our team, what they learned through the whole selling and buying process, and they will also share how they are now currently living their best life in retirement. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, hi, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Oh, we're excited. It'll be fun.
So just as a brief introduction, you all are past clients of ours, and you had a big house that you lived in for how long?
25 years.
25 years.
Almost
and then,
25 years.
Wow. And then decided to sell the big house and
Right.
relocate to a smaller house so that
Right.
you could live your best retirement lives.
That's right. That's right.
And I feel like you did it. I mean, it was a big undertaking.
Yeah.
But you're like the poster children, because you went through it just with such grace and proactivity, and now I get to see, like, live vicariously through you as you sail around the world.
Well, that's sweet of you to say, but we had good guidance.
Thanks.
You know, the process of deciding to, we had a 3,300 square foot house we adored in Clifton Heights. Wonderful house, great flow, welcoming. It was the center for neighborhood gatherings, for family, for friends. We'd have showers, we'd have parties. We had the best parties. And it was great. When Steve worked for several years for St. Louis University, we made connection with the foreign students there. And there was a blast. They'd come for dinners, they'd come for holidays, they'd come stay. And so we really loved having all that room. And we raised our only child, Molly, there. But sometimes decisions to move on aren't choices, they're just realizations.
Mm-hmm.
Our house was really empty. Molly was married and gone. I was getting ready to retire. Steve was going to follow me in a year. I developed rheumatoid arthritis. I had a bad knee. He was starting to get osteo in his knees. A 3-story house with a basement, that's a lot of stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And we just realized we aren't going to be able to do these stairs much longer. And we don't need all this room. And, as the families evolve, they all have their own nieces and nephews, are now all married and have their own homes. And so family gatherings just weren't as often at our house anyway. So it was time. And so our goal was to take my first year of retirement. I retired at the end of 2020 and get the house ready to sell. And then the next year we'd be all retired and ready for Steve to retire and move on. But, at the end of 2020, Molly was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis, and we knew she was going to need more help than we had anticipated. We couldn't just move off and go somewhere now because she was going to need us. So the first thing we had to do was find a realtor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we called a friend of ours who was a former neighbor, Jen McCormick, who owns Carousel Staging.
Mm-hmm.
And said, we knew she worked with realtors every day. Who do you recommend? How do we do this? And Jen said, I'm going to give you 2 names. You will love both of them. You need to interview them and see who you click with. There was also another realtor who was heavily promoted in the neighborhood. I saw his name a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I called his office first and left a message, and he never called me back. I thought, that's a bad sign.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a realtor who doesn't call you back. So we scratched him. So I interviewed the first person that Jen recommended, and I loved them. They were great. They were sweet. They worked out of an office in Kirkwood, which was one of our target areas. And they were lovely, but they didn't see the same promise in our house that we did. They were very used to Kirkwood. So I think they were comparing our big, wonderful Victorian in Clifton Heights to Kirkwood houses. And it was never going to be a Kirkwood house, but it was a fabulous house.
It was a fabulous house.
It was a fabulous house. So we moved on. You came over back in October of 2020. And we sat on the deck because it was COVID time. And then you went through the house and you just got it. You got what a neat feel it had and how warm it was and what a good family home it was going to be. Plus, you were so familiar with the city, how to market in the city. I just felt like you had the plan that was going to work for us the best. So we went with you.
Thanks.
And it was one of the best decisions we've ever made.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, we loved you and you were fun and you got us and you never got frustrated with us. Even when I was, ready to toss it all out the window, you hung in there. You're like, it's a process. You'll get there. And you were right. We did eventually. But
so when you are saying that part, are you talking about looking to buy?
I'm looking at everything, Dawn. I think you got our house, what it needed to sell, what a special kind of neighborhood that Clifton Heights area is. And I think you understood what we wanted to do. We were really freaked out at the prospect of having people come through our house while we were living there. It was COVID, first of all.
Right.
And so our goal was to hopefully find another house, move, and then have our house open, or at least start showing it after we'd moved.
Mm-hmm.
And the other realtor didn't think that was such a great idea. And you got it. You were like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And you just kind of supported everything we thought we wanted to do. So that was a good move on our part.
So, okay. So just going back in our process, I'm trying to remember. I remember interviewing with you, and then we made a plan. Like, we went through the house and made a plan for the things to do in order to get the house ready for sale. And
right.
Then while you guys were executing the plan to prepare the home for sale, we were simultaneously touring houses.
We started looking at houses in January of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. And you had told us at the time, and there wasn't much inventory. It was starting to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You had told us we would look at 17 houses at least before we found our house. Do you remember how many houses we looked at?
No.
19.
No way.
Yeah. We looked at 19 houses and we finally found our house, but it took us 5 months. We looked for 5 months, but again, inventory was really low.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what we were looking for evolved. We were really familiar with Kirkwood and Webster. We loved it. We shopped there. We ate there. We thought, oh, let's live in Kirkwood or Webster.
Mm-hmm.
We were totally unrealistic in our expectations of what we could afford and how much our price was going to buy. And you kept saying, it's a process. You'll get there. You'll get there. Well, when we started looking in our price range, it was icky. We couldn't afford anything that was decent. And we saw some real shockers. I will never forget the open house we went to where they had not bothered to make their beds. There was dirty dishes in the sink. There were dirty clothes on the floor, shoes all over. I'm like, was there a problem here? Were they not really wanting to sell this house? And it was discouraging. That was quite a long process. So then during that process, I guess January, we had just started looking when our daughter and son-in-law decided that they had to move. They were living in a 3rd floor walk-up apartment. And with her MS diagnosis, he was carrying her up and down the stairs every day.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So we sent them to you.
Mm-hmm.
And Lance in your office helped them. They connected with him. They thought he was awesome. He was about their age. He found them their dream home.
Yeah.
And
they have quite a story on how they got that.
They did. And it was a miracle. They got it. And it was in Baldwin. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, our Kirkwood and Webster, where we were getting discouraged anyway, kind of went away because we knew we needed to be closer to her. He traveled a lot. He used to travel a lot for business before COVID. So we assumed when that ended, he'd be traveling again and she would need help. And she couldn't drive anymore. So Baldwin became our target. And so we started, well, not just Baldwin, but it was really more West St. Louis County. We started looking at.
And that's an issue in and of itself. I'd lived in the city of St. Louis my entire life. So when we were looking, we looked in the city, we were looking in kind of the ring municipalities, but Baldwin to me was the other side of the world. I would come out here maybe once or twice at Christmas time to shop, but that was it. And we adopted a dog from a breeder 40 years ago on Manchester, but that was the only time I would ever come out this way. I had no idea that this area existed. So that in and of itself, to this day, I would never believe I would be living out as far west as we are, but it's worked out extremely well.
That was part of the emotional journey, I think, was losing those city ties. And we had lived in Clifton Heights since we'd gotten married in 1984, right after that, 85. Yeah. We loved it. We had friends everywhere in the whole neighborhood. We were dedicated to it. We were very involved and we loved it. And moving away from that was a hard choice. Still, we knew we had to do it, but leaving the city was like choice number 2. That was really hard.
Right.
But you do it. You do what you have to. So we started looking, and at the same time, we were trying to get our house ready. And I think Steve always says he has 3 words of advice for people downsizing.
Let's hear it.
Purge.
Yeah.
Purge.
We would go a typical Saturday, we would stop at estate sales, garage sales, because we had so much room. No matter what we picked up, we had a place for it. Whether it was the 3rd floor, we had a full basement. It wasn't finished, but it could hold a lot of stuff. We had a big 2-car garage. So we accumulated, and we had accumulated everything from our 36 years of marriage. We had accumulated everything that our daughter had from the time she was a little one. And of course, she's an only child, so you don't throw anything away. So we had 20 some years of her stuff. And we just had everything. And I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder, but I like to collect things. So we just had a lot of stuff, and we didn't know where we were going, but we knew we would not have space for a lot of this stuff. And it was hard, but we had to kind of step back and say, do I need this? Do I want this? Why am I keeping this? And we had to get rid of so much stuff. It was unbelievable.
We were going from 3,300 square feet. Excuse me. We knew we needed 1 story. Steve has a tax business on the side. He's an accountant. So we knew we could have used a lower level finished room. So we were looking 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, lower level finished room. I think the only other thing on our list was an upstairs laundry. But that's a far cry from a 4-bedroom, 3,300 square foot house. So we had a lot of stuff.
It's funny because your house, it was so big. It
So
did
big.
not seem crowded. It just because the house was so big. When I walked in there, I never thought, oh, they have too much stuff. Like your ceilings were so high, you had so many big windows. It didn't feel like you had too much stuff.
You say that until you go to pack boxes, then you realize how much stuff we had.
Yeah. But you wouldn't until you try to shrink it down to half as much square footage.
Right.
Then you kind of realize what has to go and what can stay.
Well, and that so our goal was to, buy a new house before we put this one on, the original one, on the market. And another advantage of that is we could move and see what couldn't go.
Right.
We moved first, and then we were like, oh, that's never going to fit. That's never going to fit. We even moved a love seat that we had hoped would work, and it ended up going away after a couple weeks because it didn't really fit. So, but anyway, we adopted the 3-prong approach: keep it and move it, give it away or donate it, and then purge, trash, literally. We were making weekly trips to Goodwill at the beginning. And as time went on, we were making multiple trips to Goodwill. And then when we did things like, you know, your designer had recommended that we update all the light fixtures and the ceiling fans and all that. But the ones we had were good. They were brass. They were still in good condition. So all of those were taken down very carefully, and then we donated them to the Restore for Habitat for Humanity. And it was funny. Steve was unloading the brass chandeliers from the trunk of our car onto a pallet in the store, and there was a man standing there picking them up as soon as Steve could lay them down. Oh, this is beautiful. What's wrong with this? He's like, nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. So that was another emotional hurdle that the donation part really helped us get over, because we're like, somebody's going to love this. Somebody else needs this, and we don't need it anymore. You know, that's the key. I love this. It has sentimental value, but I don't have anywhere for it. I can't use it anymore. Somebody else can.
Yeah.
So let them have it.
Yeah.
We did that with furniture that we knew wouldn't work in a smaller house. We took pictures and sent it out to the family. And a lot of, like, Steve's one of 8, so he has a lot of siblings. And, you know, somebody wanted Molly's bed. Somebody wanted her dresser. Somebody wanted we had a metal bunk bed from when she was little. Somebody else wanted that. You know, it was great because they all have now gone on to other lives and other homes. And it really was sweet to let it go. Here's my theory. Grown children need to have their own stuff. So we made Molly come over. She was off on Fridays. She's a mental health therapist, but she doesn't have clients on Friday. She'd come over every Friday. I'd go get her, and I'd make her do the toy room on the 3rd floor full of her toys, the toys she really wanted to keep, put away for her children, and the toys that she didn't want anymore. And then anything else some of it was trash. You know, it was 20, 30, almost 30 years old.
Yeah, that toy room was awesome.
The toy room was great.
The secret room.
Yeah, a little secret door was fun. But yeah, Barbie had her own room.
Yeah, the Barbie room.
Barbie doesn't need her own room anymore. And so Molly really had to decide what was important to her. She kept like 1 or 2 tubs of toys. And then everything else we put in big boxes. And then we started putting the word out to like neighbors who had grandchildren. One of our neighbors has 3 granddaughters, about 8, 9, 10. Perfect Barbie years. They came over one afternoon and had a blast.
All of them?
All of them together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Playing in the Barbie room and deciding what they wanted. In the end, they took all of the Barbies. They took her house, her cars. They took everything. Again, that helps the emotional part of, oh, Barbie's going, but it's really not. Then our neighbor would send us pictures of them having Barbie days at their house, and it was wonderful.
That is so cool. I did not. That's the first time I heard that story.
Oh, it was awesome. They still talk about the Barbies. So anyway, you can just start packing up like books. We'd pack up a box and take it downstairs, mark it really well on the ends, start stacking one edge of the dining room or the living room, had boxes from day one, just boxes we added to them. You're not going to use them again until you move. Get rid of them. As you kept telling us, it's a journey. We started at one price level and realized that wasn't enough. We hadn't looked for houses in 25 years. And even then, when we bought the big house, it fell in our lap. We weren't looking to buy. It just happened.
Yeah.
And so we had no idea. I wasn't one of those people who went out and, you know, just looked at houses all the time. Didn't happen.
You were constantly on Zillow.
I wasn't. And we really didn't know until we started looking. And you kept saying, you know, that's probably not that's probably not enough for this house. Or, and we just realized slowly as we looked that we needed to be more realistic. So our price went up. And then when we knew we had to kind of focus on West County, then we had to just adjust our game. What are you going to do? So we eventually grew into an acceptable price range. We do remember the house we bid on in April in Wildwood. It was a newer home. It was gorgeous and it was perfect. It had the upstairs laundry. It had everything we were looking for. It was awesome. It had a big yard, it had a walkout, lovely finished lower level, great office, bathroom down there. It was perfect. And it was around Easter and we offered them asking. And you said at the time, it's probably not going to be enough, but we can try. And of course, asking was even more than we thought we were going to pay. And it wasn't enough. It got sold for well over asking. The irony is that a month later, when we found our house, we ended up paying more for it than we would have paid for the other house if we'd gone above asking. But when we finally found our house after looking and looking, it was only a mile from Molly. And it had, you make your wish list. This is all I need. This is all I need. And then this house threw something at us that we didn't know we needed, but we love more than anything. And that's the woods. Yeah. We back up to these great woods. We have wonderful picture windows, bedroom and living room. We adore the woods. We watch them year round. We love our critters. We love the deer. We have tons of bird feeders out when we can keep the raccoons off of them. But, just being open to that we ended up not getting our upstairs laundry, but Steve kindly has become laundry boy. It's downstairs with his office. So
the laundry gets taken care of.
Laundry gets done. I don't have to do it as I don't.
That's a win-win.
It's a win for me. Absolutely. It may not be for him. And we have a plan for after he can't do the one set of stairs anymore too. So we'll be good with that. But it's ended up being such a warm and welcoming little house. And, you kept saying paint's cheap, paint's a cheap fix. Well, it was here. We came in and had everything repainted. It was not decorated in our taste, but we had wonderful painters who did a lot of work. They painted a lot. We had to do a lot of repairs because the previous owner thought epoxy was the way to affix anything, including drapes.
What?
Yeah, she had glued all the drapes up. So we had a lot of repairs to do on the walls, but it was not an expensive fix. And then, we got colors that we liked, and then we're able to adapt and make it ours.
Because we did all of that painting took place before we did the move. So the house was empty. The painters could come in, they could do everything they needed, fix the walls where they needed to be fixed. And then so we were moving into the house that was newly painted. So it was from that perspective, it was in better shape.
That's such a benefit to have been able to take that time and not have to rush to move in.
It was. We loved that. And we kind of called the shots on that. I know, I think we waited a little longer than you would have liked to list the house, but we were still puttering around. I was patching walls and plastering walls in the basement, and the painters were not done. We had the kitchen redone, updated countertops and new refrigerator and new stove and painted cabinets. That took a lot longer than we thought. But it looked magnificent. We loved it. And then with the new light fixtures, it was so pretty. The other decision that was kind of funny was whether to stage or not. I mentioned Jen McCormick as a former neighbor and a friend of ours, and she's fabulous. And I know she does great work, but I was like, well, really, do we really need to stage? I don't know. All the while Dawn's going, you need to stage. You need to stage this house. It needs to be staged. So then we called Jen in, and of course she was wonderful and staged it. And it was so pretty. I mean, it really made it look newer and younger and more vibrant than it was. I mean, she just has fun taste, and I thought it really popped. It made a huge difference, I think. And the pictures online made it look gorgeous. Thought, wow. It also brought the room in the rooms that were so big and cavernous with nothing in them, kind of brought them down to, oh yeah, my furniture looked good in there.
Yeah,
kind of
that
thing.
big room on the first floor.
It really-
It's a hard room. It's an amazing room,
Yeah,
but I felt like the staging really helped.
it helped a lot.
Help people see it.
One other aspect of getting the house ready, we thought we needed to replace carpeting and we thought we maybe needed to redo one of the bathrooms and Dawn was very emphatic that she had a really good carpet guy. So instead of replacing the carpeting, we just had it cleaned extremely well, including because the laundry was on the second floor, some laundry detergent had spilled, I don't even know how many years prior, but we had a big mark in the hallway from where the laundry detergent had spilled. And we did everything, we couldn't get it up. The carpet cleaner guy that Dawn had us hire, he made the carpet look brand new.
It looked amazing.
We didn't do anything to the bathrooms and
Because Dawn said that the new buyers would want to do that.
yeah, so we didn't do a lot of things we thought we probably should have because we didn't know what we were doing. And in the end, it just means that we didn't spend money that would have just been thrown away
Wasted.
because they're going to do what they want anyway. And and then we had a price point on our house where we were at a level where we didn't want to go over a number because then it would kind of be a different situation. And it all just worked out extremely well. So a lot of good advice from Dawn and her folks made that happen.
Although we couldn't have predicted that the house would be purchased by a chef,
Right.
who had 5 kids, but he wanted a chef's kitchen. I don't blame them.
I
And
know.
so they gutted our pretty kitchen that
I
we
know. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad.
No, you shouldn't feel bad because it became their house, you know.
With the kitchen being torn out after we had just replaced it, the immediate reaction was, oh, shoot, that was a waste of money. Why did we do that? The flip side is we did it so that we could put the asking price on the house that we did, and it sold for asking price. So we got our money and it's now theirs to do what they want to with. So it hurt for a couple seconds, but afterwards it's like, you know what,
It's their house.
we want them to make it, we want them to be as happy in it as we were for the time that we spent.
Another thing about not having people through the house when we were living there, we had a friend just sold a house in Georgia right before we went to market with ours. She had a horrible experience. I know I've told you this. They had a beautiful home and she wanted, and it was pristine when they got it ready to sell. She had a basket of, shoe covers by the door with a sign to please cover your shoes. They had security cameras around the house so they could see when buyers were coming through, or prospective buyers. She was shocked at how many people did not cover their shoes. They had a sign asking people not to sit on the beds. They watched people lay on their beds with their shoes, let their kids jump on the beds with their shoes. They even had a sanitary seal over the toilets. They watched people take them off and use the toilets and not flush the toilets. There were people taking glasses out of the cabinet and drinking, and it really was frightening. This was COVID, and it was scary because it was early 2020 when they sold their house. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I feel like if you can, that is the best way to do it for all the reasons you just mentioned, right? Like, what do you take? What do you leave behind?
Yeah.
Giving yourself time, because the house you buy is never exactly what you want, right? So giving yourself time to get in and do the updates, like the fireplace behind you did not look like that.
It did not.
It did not look anything like that. That was such an awesome recommendation from your painter.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks so amazing. But you had time to get all of those things done.
Right. We weren't rushed. We didn't feel like, oh, we got to do it now.
So what was our timeline? We closed in June, late June?
We closed in May.
Closed in May.
And we moved in August.
Yeah, that was actually pretty quick.
We listed the old house on Labor Day weekend. It went on the market on a Thursday. We had showings on Friday and it sold by Sunday. That's
And-
pretty
And
awesome.
we closed on that like November 1, I think.
November 1, they put, something happened, they had to delay, but it was November 1. So we had one last Halloween at the old house.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and then moved. So, but what do you remember about our hunt? Do you remember how frustrated we were
I do.
at the houses, and you kept saying it'll be okay, you'll find it, something will happen, and you were totally right.
It is just a process though, because you don't know, because it's not like going to Target. You don't know what's on the shelf, and the shelf is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And so the first the first couple months is always, what is this market, right? Because it's different in January than it is in May. It's different in September than it is in December. Like the inventory is always fluctuating. And at that particular time, prices were just like every new house set a new comp. So you didn't really, it was hard to know what was available in a certain price range.
And what was going to be the price to sell, because there were bidding wars and people were going over, and it was crazy.
I'm so impressed that once you moved, you started all your travels.
Traveling. We've done some wonderful trips this year. We've gone to the Society Islands, Tahiti, Bora Bora, on a small sailing ship, which was amazing. 132 passengers, and it was great. And then we actually went to Michigan for a while. We've been to Arkansas, we've been to Keeneland in Kentucky, and then we just finished a 3-week trip, kind of a bucket list trip, to Japan and the Philippines with our daughter and son-in-law. He's Filipino, and we saw a lot of his family, and it was just an incredible experience that we can't wait to repeat and go do something else. Now on the books, we've got hopefully an Alaskan cruise next year. Nice. We're going back to Hawaii for our 40th wedding anniversary in the fall. I don't know, there's a bunch of months in between there. We're going to have to come up with something else to do.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, we'll find something. Well, we are grateful for everything you did for us. You made this kind of painful process a lot less painful.
Well, you guys did all the hard work. I always say that we're like the guides, like we just make sure you don't fall off the edge of a cliff, but and we're showing you the path, but you're carrying your pack, you're putting one foot in front of the other and walking up that big hill. We're just.
Yeah. Where were you when we were carrying boxes down? Yeah, no, there were times I was on that cliff. I was like, I'm never going to find a house. I'm never going to find one I like. It's awful. I don't want to do this anymore. Just give me an apartment and I'll be done. But you talked me down every time, and you were patient with me when I was in tears. I appreciated that. That was good.
I'm so sorry. It was just a rough couple of years with the inventory.
Isn't it still rough though?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it just takes so much time. There were years when I could literally, so we saw 19 houses over the course of 5 months. But, 2010 through 2015, I could have shown 19 houses in a weekend. You could have said, hey, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. This is my price range. And we literally could have found 19 houses to go look at in the course of a weekend. But now inventory is so slim, and if you're open to a certain geography and you want to be in a certain price range and you need X amount of space, you might only see 2 or 3 things that match your criteria even come on the market in a week. Yeah. Right. So it just takes so much more time. It's gotten to be such a patience testing process.
Well, there were houses that we were very interested in that sold online before we even got an appointment.
Yeah. And protocol, because people will say one thing in the MLS, we're going to show it all weekend. We're going to review offers on Monday. And then boom, someone says, no contingencies, 50,000 over asking, but you got to take it by 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and it takes the person who wrote that offer had been looking for 6+ months, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What drove them to write that offer was frustration.
Right.
I think we are probably past that.
Good.
Because that was what the interest rates were designed to do, to stop that, right? To take people out of the market.
Have you seen an end to the bidding wars?
It's still kind of house by house, right? So, because everyone's really struggling. Because we look at comps and we look at the last 3 to 6 months to see what a similar house sold for. But now we kind of have to take into account, well, with the interest rates, that house now could be 200 more a month or 400 more a month or 600 more a month, than it would have been.
Sure.
And so then do we price it at what it sold for, what the similar house sold for 6 months ago with an interest rate that was 1.5% less? Or do we have to make the adjustment and go a little bit lower? And so the sellers who are not pricing it where we think it'll sell, but making it more affordable, like marketing it to a bigger buyer pool by making it more affordable, we might see multiple offers on those, right? So basically, if you underprice it, you might see multiple offers. But if you're aggressively pricing right now, the buyers will wait you out. And I have clients on both ends of the spectrum. Like I have one where we priced a little bit higher than we thought it would sell, thinking that someone would come in and make it a lower offer. And the market's just waiting them out. They're waiting for them to bring that price down. And then I have others, where even though we're getting a lot fewer showings, I got one, 10,000 above asking the other day, just because it was priced well and they, it was just priced well for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's pricing, and it's a really pretty house in a desirable area with a good price point is going to get an offer quickly. But if it's not priced well, the buyers won't, you don't get away with unmade beds and dishes in the sink anymore. Like that,
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Good. That's good, because that was
good.
gross.
Yeah.
It was icky.
Yeah. So just constantly evolving.
Yeah.
We'll see. Thank you so much for
You're
spending
welcome.
You're
This was
welcome.
spending
fun.
some time with me this
You.
afternoon.
Thanks for what you've done for us.
Oh my gosh, it was my pleasure. But I do think you guys are like the poster children for doing the hard thing.
Well, that's
And
good.
then
I want to be a poster child for something like that.
and then living it. And then living it up, right? Because
Yeah.
you ripped off the Band-Aid,
Yeah.
you did the hard work, and now you get to enjoy your retirement. And
That's right.
I just love seeing the pictures and hearing about the adventures.
We'll have to tell you about our next one.
I really want that. I'm not just
Okay.
kidding. I'm like, I want to see the pictures. I want to hear the story. I love that you're doing it. I love that you guys are go, go, go.